Time for
DodgerHeads.
high fly ball into right field. Dodgers have won it all in 2020. Shohei Ohtani, 50-50 club. Strikes him out. There's a drive. Shohei Ohtani. Freeman hits the ball. She is gone. Birthday party, Los Angeles. Your Dodgers have won the World Series.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Medium Large Sports Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by Anthony Witrado, as I am on Sunday nights when I'm in town. Anthony's been a little bit more consistent on this show than me, but we appreciate everybody that's hopping in live on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter a little bit earlier for some scheduling reasons. So lots to get into tonight. Of course, the Dodgers lose today. They lost a pair to the Red Sox, but we got a big trade deadline preview, some new rumors about some outfielders or infielders that the Dodgers may be connected to. We've got some injury updates. We have a Joe Kelly storyline that we get to talk about. But Anthony, before we dive into any of that, I know the divisional lead is down to 4, but how are you, my friend?
I think in the immediate aftermath of today's game, I was like 10 times worse off than I am currently. I took a walk. I listened to the podcast with you and Fabian. And I listened to some like Laker podcast. Like I was just moving. I did like 4 miles. I was just zoning out. So feeling a little bit better now. Still not feeling great though.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel you on that. And I mean, here's the good news. The Dodgers are still in the lead for the division. They are at 4 games ahead of the Padres despite losing their last 2 and losing this series to the Red Sox. But let's get into this series against the Red Sox and maybe more specifically today's game, Anthony. The headline for me was that from the 3rd inning to the 9th inning, they stranded a runner in scoring position every single inning. I posted this on Twitter. In the 3rd, they loaded the bases. They did get 1 run when Freddie Freeman walked a guy in, but then Andy Pages lined out. In the 4th, they left runners on 1st and 3rd. The 5th, they left runners on 1st and 2nd. The 6th, they had a leadoff double from Rojas that was stranded. In the 7th, they got a 2-out double from Conforto and Edman hit by pitch before Will Smith flied out. In the 8th, they had leadoff walks from Rojas and Betts and got nothing out of it. And then in the 9th, Estuary Ruiz stole second base with 2 outs before Tommy Edman stranded him. So 7 straight innings stranding a runner in scoring position, Anthony. Twice, I mentioned the guy standing on second base with nobody out, and you lose by 1. That's what stings the most to me about today's game.
Yeah, they have created opportunities in the 2 losses in Boston, and just haven't been able to convert them. That's the Dodgers of like last season that frustrated everybody. They have, despite recency bias, they have been a pretty good team with runners in scoring position. I want to say they've been pretty good with 2 outs also. Maybe I saw that somewhere and it's not true, but I thought that was the case. But yes, lately, not very good. And that's frustrating because the offense had been so inconsistent and a lot of struggles, obviously a lot of guys in the lineup struggling. And so when those opportunities are presenting themselves, it feels like almost double the pain when they can't capitalize, because I think we're getting conditioned to know that the offense has these inconsistencies and these holes. And so anytime they're not able to take advantage when they create opportunities, it just feels like the margin for error gets so much thinner.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It was funny how many people on social media told me that Shohei Ohtani sucked with runners in scoring position, had no clutch gene. And it was like, or you could just Google these numbers and find out that he's like a 150 weighted runs created plus. Somebody sent out a screenshot that was like in every version of high leverage, Ohtani is like well above league average. But again, I get it as a fan. When you're watching it live, you're like, dude, come on, I need more out of you when Rojas has a leadoff double or something, or, you know, the 2 walks and he just can't get the job done. But he wasn't alone. I mean, honestly, offensively, every single person failed the Dodgers today except for 2. That would be Miguel Rojas and then the true hero, nearly hero of the game, Anthony, Michael Conforto, 3 for 4, 2 doubles, a home run. We don't need to talk about the defense, Anthony, but look, this guy has been desperate for just like a pulse because he's been better. I think Jack Harris tweeted out in the month of July he had like a 750 OPS coming into this game, which nobody is going to say is fantastic, but I think we'd all be thrilled if we got a 750 OPS from Conforto from here on out. But I mean, I'm not going to hover on this despite my own personal bias when it comes to wanting Conforto to be successful. None of these were cheapies. Like this was a home run to the deepest part of the park and a couple missiles for doubles for Conforto, who, I mean, and he was the guy who walked in the ninth, and then his guy stole second base. So he did his best, Anthony. And look, if there's one positive here, I think it's maybe, just maybe, this is the time Conforto figures it out.
Hope so. He's been decent. This is basically the Conforto we've been hoping for all season, which he's been for most of July, I think, if not all of July so far. If he's this guy basically all season, we're still probably disappointed, but like, I don't think anyone's necessarily calling for his head.
Yeah.
He's all right. Right now it looks good in comparison to what he's been before. But I was wondering this to myself, when I was listening to the podcast about the trade deadline, of like, is this recent run of success for him sort of muddying the waters for the Dodgers in terms of what the outlook should be? And I quickly snapped out of that fantasy because this is the Dodgers front office. They don't take, they don't take this kind of stuff like, okay, we don't have to do anything now. Like, we'll just wash our hands of that problem. It's done. It's solved. They're obviously still going to be looking to upgrade where they can, mainly in probably left field. And so aside from, talking about the lineup. So it's good that he's coming around, especially when there are so many other guys struggling. But I think what we're seeing is that without those other guys, without Muncy, even if he's just okay, it's not enough.
Yeah. Here's one last thing I want to say about Conforto. And again, I'll throw this out. Some people won't listen. The at-bat quality has been very good from Conforto of late. Like even the times when he's getting hits, it feels like he's doing a Max Muncy impersonation, not from a production perspective, but just the way he works counts. He's been a guy that, despite having one of the worst batting averages, if not the worst batting average in all of Major League Baseball, the on-base percentage starts with a 3, which is something that a bunch of other Dodgers can't say for themselves. He has a higher on-base percentage than Teoscar Hernandez and Tommy Edman. Obviously, the production with the bat, but it felt like today we got both of those. The walk that he worked was like a full count where he took a great pitch. I believe the home run might have been on 2 strikes. One of the doubles might have been on 2 strikes. And so I think he is providing them something there. And again, to all the Dodger fans who can't stand him, I don't blame you at all. Like, it's been a really, really rough watch for Conforto for the entirety of the season. We're well past like the 150 at bat mark. But I think we can all stack hands and agree that like Conforto actually being good, actually being the guy they thought they were going to get when they paid for $17 million for him, if that somehow were to happen, that's the best case scenario. Because we could talk ourselves into some of these fourth outfielders that are out there in the market. But I think the version of Conforto the Dodgers thought they were getting would be the best trade deadline acquisition they could make in the outfield. I'm not sure if you agree with that or not, Anthony, but that's where I'm at.
I would agree, considering the options and like the realistic options.
Right.
I think that is probably one, obviously only costs you money, which they're already giving him anyway. So no prospect capital there. So yes, I do agree with you there. I will say, I don't know even if with this recent run, if like that's the Conforto that they expected when they gave him $17 million. I think they probably expected
no chance
more. Yeah. So now, if he can maintain this though, which is probably slightly below expectations, if we're being honest, I think still comparatively, when you talk about the first 4 months of the season or wherever we're at with it, we would take this at this point.
Totally. Absolutely.
Beggars can't be choosers when the options to try to fix this problem, one, aren't guaranteed to fix it and are not great anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we talk Dustin May, let's get to a couple super chats. Baseball Geek 79 with a $10 super chat. We appreciate you. It says the Dodgers and Guardians matchup. Guardians need a catcher and Dalton Rushing and a starter They can give him Dustin May, Emmett Sheehan, or Justin Robleski. We need a corner outfielder like Steven Kwan and a relief pitcher like Clase or Smith. How about the Orioles, Laureano? Let's start with the Guardians piece here. Talk me through. They need a catcher. They need a starter. We're going to get to Dustin May. I don't think Dustin May is going to be a needle mover in any trade of substance. Yeah. But what do you think about the type of deal where it's rushing and a pitcher going after somebody like Kwan or Emmanuel Clase?
Feels like an overpay in that particular scenario.
Keep in mind that Clase's got like at least 3 more years of team control left, I believe. Rushing, of course, has like 6 or 7. So
yeah. Kwan is a glove first kind of guy, which not to say there's no value there, but he's kind of a league average hitter. And if it's going to cost you rushing, I would rather just give all those opportunities to Outman, and hopefully he can become league average offensively.
You might have more optimism on Outman than me, I think. I thought I was the last guy hoping for Outman league average offensively.
I don't have much optimism for him, but if I'm giving up rushing, I better be getting something back better than Kwan.
Yeah.
Because I think the organization right now is pretty firm in the stance that they're not going to include rushing on any of like these Band-Aid sort of deals. Like it's going to have to be sort of somebody with some impact on whatever side of the ball that they decide that they want to go. And not a rental. You know what I mean? So I think if you're including rushing and something like that, for the Dodgers standpoint, it's probably a non-starter.
Yeah, I'm with you. Kwan is a good player. I just don't think he's a fit for the Dodgers. Positionally, yes, he's a fit. But like what they would be looking for offensively, the profile that I think they would be looking for, he doesn't seem like he's a perfect fit there. It seems like they just have a couple guys, like a Tommy Edman type is basically what he is offensively. And obviously, Tommy Edman hasn't been that great. Like, I hesitate to say this stat out loud because people are going to be mad. I'll just say this. The gap between Michael Conforto's season's numbers and Tommy Edman's season's numbers are not very different. So it's a small gap. We'll put it that way. But obviously, Kwan, you would be hoping for more. What's interesting to me is, like, would you trade Dalton Rushing for one of these elite closers, Anthony? And again, these are all guys. I'd have to go back and look in my notes. I can't remember if Clase is the guy who has control. I'd have to go back. One of these guys has control through like 2027, 2028, compared to the other guys. But let's just say he's the 2028 guy. That's what Clase has controls. Oh, here we go. Clase is signed through 2028. Two $10 million team options in 27 and 28. He's 27 years old. Duran is controlled through 2027. With just arbitration years there. So I guess my question to you is, you've got a guy like Dalton Rushing, who is obviously an incredible prospect, hasn't performed this year. There's no obvious pathway to playing time besides being the backup catcher to Will Smith. He can't play for first base because they have Freddie Freeman. He can't play DH because they have Shohei Ohtani. So would you be willing to move a guy like Dalton Rushing in order to go get like a high end? I mean, Clase and Duran, we're talking about like 2 of the top 5 closers in all of Major League Baseball. Would you be open to moving Rushing in a trade like that?
I'd be willing to have the conversation. If I'm including Rushing as a centerpiece, though, I want more than a reliever. Okay. You know what I mean? And I think the Dodgers may be getting kind of alligator arms on these kinds of blockbuster deals for relievers. They've gotten burned by some in the past. Some of them have worked out, but they've also gotten torched on a couple. And then obviously they're getting burned currently with Tanner Scott and Kirby Yates in terms of like the big money deals that they try to solidify the bullpen with, right? And so I could see them saying, look, we're not going to give up that kind of capital for a reliever. There's got to be more involved in it. And if it is a rushing centerpiece kind of deal, maybe it's just a full-on blockbuster and they go to the A's and they say, we want Miller and Rooker, whatever. Like it's got to be something more, I think, for them to part with the guy who was their number 1 prospect just a year ago.
Yeah, it's interesting. And a catcher is a premium position. There's a lot of teams in there that could desperately use a catcher. And that's the tricky part. You got to give something up to go get an elite closer. But I'm kind of with you that giving up a guy who seems that low of a risk, like Rushing, who's already at, the quad A level, basically has already proven at every step. It's tough to feel like you're walking away from a guy that's going to make, pitch 70 innings for you in a good season.
Right. And has and Clase has a track record, and that's understandable, but just the nature of his position is volatile. And then also like, and to be clear, I'm not against trading rushing. I just would not do it in this particular situation.
Yeah, I'm with you. He mentioned Laureano as well. That's the guy that when we talked on Thursday, Bruce and I, Laureano's a guy that I liked. He would be an interesting fit. He's having a really good season, plus defense as well. So I like that one as well. Jedi Engineer. What about Cedric Mullins as a rental? Fills a hole. Shouldn't cost too much. I do think these are the waters that the Dodgers are swimming in, Anthony. Like when people are texting or sending me messages on Twitter, like, hey, we got to go get an impact bat. Those guys aren't necessarily out there. When you look at the dudes who are available, it's like Jarren Duran, if he's available, but it doesn't sound like he's available. Dodgers losing 2 or 3 to the Red Sox doesn't help. But I mean, Mullins, you're looking at a guy that his last 3 seasons, 97 weighted runs created plus, 103, back down to 97 this year, on base percentage below 300. He stole 30 bags last year, but I'm looking at this guy.
Impact bat people are looking for.
What's that?
He's not the impact bat people are looking for.
Yeah, and again, defensively, I'm sure is an upgrade. I don't know a ton about Cedric Mullins, how he grades out there. But like, I'm looking at a guy who's hitting 219, 297, 409. So that's a 700 OPS. Like, I'm looking at that and saying, Conforto could give me that. Like, I'd like to think it's 750 over the month of July. So why are we going and trading something for a guy who offensively is going to give us similar? Again, if you want to tell me he's a much better defensive player, great. But my point is, though, I think these are the waters they're swimming in, Anthony. We're going to do a trade deadline preview later. I think it's that sort of platoon / fourth outfielder type is the waters the Dodgers ultimately, if I had to guess, are going to be swimming in. LLM says, if all we get is Kelly and Bader, then we gave up on 2025. Joe Kelly will get a workout with the Dodgers. We'll talk later. Harrison Bader, a name that's been kicked around again. We'll talk about that as well. Fritz says, Conforto went 3 for 4 with a home run today. Is he figuring it out at the plate finally? Defensively, he sure couldn't figure out Fenway. Great show as always, guys. On the defense, real quick, like the first one, unacceptable. There's no excuses. You tell me. I just give everybody a pass when it comes to the Green Monster. If you're a left fielder or center fielder, like in the 9th inning, Boston's left fielder made the exact same mistake that Conforto did, where a ball landed and then bounced back over his head. He just happened to be in the gap side of things, so the center fielder bailed him out. But defensively, when it comes to left fielders and center fielders in Fenway, Anthony, I kind of throw up my hands and have a much larger amount of grace for anybody out there that's struggling.
He also didn't catch that ball that landed foul.
The first inning, I'm not excusing. The first inning's not excusable. I'm talking about the one that bounced back over his head.
Yeah, I mean, that one is what it is. The other two, though, not just the one that he dropped, but the one that ended up foul.
Got it. I got you.
Yeah, that one also, I thought tougher play, but a big league outfielder should make that play still probably. So yeah, I mean, look, you didn't get the guy for his defense,
right? And he's actually been probably better than you expected defensively in the large part.
Well, in comparison to the other side, yes,
exactly.
The other side of the diamond, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is he needs to keep hitting.
Yeah.
And if that's,
do you have any belief he's going to?
I'm not sold on it because we have seen. Now, I will say this: this is his most sustained run of like being okay that he's had this season, because he's had other little spurts, a couple of weeks here or there, and we're like, oh, he might be back, and then it's like comes tumbling down. So I'm not completely sold yet, but I hope he proves me wrong. Obviously,
sure. Richard says, for a diehard Conforto hater, going 3 for 4 today sucks. He may have increased his survival chances past July 31st. Dustin May is done. Punt on him. We're going to talk Dustin May here in just a second. We appreciate the super chat. Richard, Francisco says, are the Dodgers mid? Record against teams over 500 is making that case, unfortunately. What do you think? Big picture, Anthony. Obviously, this team is getting healthy. Blake Snell, Blake Treinen, both due back. Treinen came back today. Snell is due back at the end of the week. Is this team mid?
I don't think they're mid. I think they have been mid with the roster that they've been able to run out there. I think that more than anything, when this rotation gets healthier, it solves a lot of issues that are happening. It increases the margin for error for an offense that has been sort of up and down in the last few, essentially the whole season. Like they do have a good offense, but there's been like significant inconsistencies at times. So that margin for error goes up. And then they should not be as taxing on the bullpen when that rotation is healthy. And that is a huge, huge deal. And then when you're able to do that, obviously the bullpen's usage drops, their effectiveness, you would think, then goes up. And all of those things together, everyone's margin for error increases. And we had talked about it earlier in the season when things were looking pretty good and guys were, for the most part, healthy and doing what they should be doing. You just need two of these three things to click that we just mentioned.
Yeah.
And on any given day that two of those three things are happening for this roster, they're capable of beating teams 10-2.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's that good. So I think when you get a full complement of starting pitching, it solves some of these other issues, including, oddly, the offense. Because if they score 4 runs, they might win that game 4-0 still. You know what I mean? It's the quality of guys that are coming back, I think, more so than just a guy coming back. Like if you had, I don't know, name a middle reliever who was hurt that you're like, oh man, we're so thin. Thank goodness this guy's coming back. No,
you're not hoping for Tony Gonsolin to come back. You're waiting for Blake Snell to come back.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I would also add the Dodgers' focus as a team building exercise is on being able to win a 5 or 7 game series against the team in the postseason. And thankfully, that tends to lend itself to a whole crap load of wins during the regular season.
Yes.
But what this team is built for is the day when they find themselves in a 7-game series and they cross their fingers and they say, if 3 of Yamamoto, Snell, Glasnow, and Ohtani are healthy by the time we get into a 5 or 7 game series, then we're going to be good. And if Trinan, Kopech, Tanner Scott, Kirby Yates, if some combination of 2 or 3 of those guys is available and healthy, we're going to feel good. And so that's what we're building towards. And amidst all of this, right? Like what I would ask people is, if you want to look glass half full, glass half empty, here's my question. Like, would you rather have the Dodgers have a 5 to 10 game better record in the regular season, but for us to be feeling way worse about the overall health of the starting rotation? Or would you say, hey, they have a 4-game lead in the West, but guess what? Like, there's a day, cross your fingers, nothing bad happens in the next 4 days, but there's a day when the rotation is going to be fully healthy. And you're going to have all your best dudes. And oh, by the way, Kershaw's been a pleasant surprise. And Emmett Sheehan's been pretty solid. And Robleski is still there. Like, that to me is what keeps my head above water. It's not so much the regular season record and the 4-game lead. It's like, okay, so far, we're this far into the season, made it to the trade deadline. And so far, we're pretty dang healthy.
Yes. And they did sort of the opposite of that last season when it comes to the rotation. And they got a little lucky to get out of that first series. Yeah. Then they rolled. But they had to sort of still patchwork it together, right? Like we were having conversations in October last year of like about punting games because they had to think about the next one. And like when you have that stable of rotation arms, there is no doing that. Right. You're playing to win all those games. And so that's a huge plus. I think the other thing with this too is like not happening currently that I can see. There's pretty good conversation going on, but like I think sometimes the chat or just fans in general will get frustrated if we say like, look, okay, long season, October is what matters, right? All of that stuff. It's because over the course of 162 games, like I had a really good editor who I admire once time tell me when I was like 23, 24 covering baseball. And he said, how I like to look at this, and he was this was our like executive editor at the Washington Post, like a top dog. And he used to be in sports and told me for 162 games, you don't go into a season as a beat writer looking to just tell the story of each individual game. You have to tell your audience how that particular game fits into the larger puzzle of 162 and why it matters or why it should be a certain thing. And so that's the kind of perspective like that I think you try to bring and that I try to bring with this stuff too. And so I say all that to say that if you are able to go into the postseason with that kind of rotation, your other stuff can be a little bit broken, and you can still be not just good, but a favorite.
Yeah.
And maybe segueing into what we're going to talk about soon, when that is healthy, I think some of your bullpen additions might come from internal sources.
Yeah. That's exactly what I've been saying the whole time is like, what if Emmett Sheehan is the right-handed sort of relief option that
Sure.
the, dominant fastball kind of thing. So yeah, we're going to get there in just a sec. Jedi Engineer says Miami sells every year. Do we think they could give us a deal on Stowers? I would imagine he is not a guy who's going to be moved. As much as they like to trade all of their best players, they typically don't trade them when they have that much team control remaining. So unfortunately, I would imagine he is off the table. If there's a trade with the Marlins, I don't think it would be for him. LLM says trade for Ryan Helsley. It won't cost you rushing. That we agree on. I think everybody who's been on our show, if we had to pick one reliever that's like an impact guy that we would predict the Dodgers would get, I think everybody agrees it would be Helsley because he is the right combination of upside and availability / cost. So if they were going to go get a closer, I think Ryan Helsley's the guy that most of us would stack hands on. Aaron Garcia with the super chat, not really worried about the offense, just a bad unclutch weekend. It happens. Bullpen didn't allow a run this series, though. That was encouraging. Absolutely, Aaron. That's a good point right there. And look, they've had some guys down there. Maybe it's not the guys we expect to be dominant and to be reliable, but they have had a few guys, Vesia and Dreyer among them, who have been fantastic out there. But before we get too far, Anthony, and get more into the trade deadline stuff, I do want to have a Dustin May conversation because he was on the mound for the Dodgers today, and I think he has been a big talking point. And he had an up and down day that finishes with 5 innings, 5 hits, 4 earned, and 5 strikeouts. Gave up a run in the first inning, kind of got himself into some trouble in the first, gives up 1 run. But after that, the next 13 batters went 1 for 13 with 5 strikeouts against him. Unfortunately, he came back out for the bottom of the 5th after that and went out, single, triple off the wall. Bad luck for him. Misplayed by Conforto, but also in literally any other ballpark except for Fenway. That's like an easy fly ball.
Yeah.
But he's playing in Fenway, and then he puts a ball on a tee for Alex Bregman, who hits a home run, and all of a sudden it's 4 earned runs for Dustin May. And so I could give you the good and the bad, and I'll let you choose. The good for Dustin May is that middle stretch, 1 for 13 with 5 strikeouts in the basically end of the first through the beginning of the 5th inning. Here's the bad. This was the stat that absolutely shocked me. He threw 43 pitches, Anthony, before he got his first swing and miss tonight. 43 pitches before whiff. That to me sums up the problem that is Dustin May right now.
And kind of always has been. Yeah. There's that. And then the other part of this is just he's failing too often to get ahead of hitters early.
Yeah.
Whether that be first pitch strike or to get ahead within the first 3 pitches of an at bat. It's a lack of control there and not being able to pound the zone. And maybe it's because he just, he knows this stuff isn't swing and miss. So he feels like he has to nibble, sort of the Blake Snell syndrome without all the Blake Snell other things that go into that.
Yeah, without the swing and miss.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know exactly what is behind that, but it's costing him. It really is, because the opponent's average plummets when he gets ahead, and so there's that. And then I also look at sort of that middle stretch, and I go, could he, if he's not moved, could he be? What kind of addition could he be in the bullpen? And we've talked about this. Yeah. We've talked about this with May for a very long time.
Yeah.
For one reason or another, whether it's because maybe he's not as effective as a starter as we think he can be, or the injuries, or whatever. This conversation with May has been going on for several seasons. The swing and miss stuff is the concerning part for me, obviously. But I do look at it like, okay, if everyone's healthy in the rotation, you throw Sheehan in there, I think he's a stud. I think he can handle that role spectacularly. May's a little bit of a question mark, but I would not mind seeing it, because if you say, okay, Dustin, every time you take the ball, maybe that's 2 times a week. Yeah. It's going to be for at least 6 hitters. And then because of the Ohtani rule, where Ohtani is a pitcher, but he's not taking up a pitching roster spot.
Yeah.
You essentially sort of gain, and this might be me just like galaxy braining stuff, but Dustin May sort of gives you 2 bullpen arms for the price of 1. If he knows he's going to go out there and get at least 6 hitters.
Yeah.
that's kind of how I look at it. And this is me being very optimistic because I don't know what's available or what they're actually going to do at the deadline. So if they don't do anything spectacular that moves the needle, maybe their answers are internal already.
Yeah. And to your point, I think with Dustin May, whether he's an answer internally is going to entirely depend on what they go out and do. Because the key about Dustin May, as a reminder, I think we all agree he's not one of the 6 best starting pitchers that the Dodgers have when Blake Snell is back. And he has no options. So despite the fact that he's never been sent down to the minors because of all the injuries he's had that have kept him on the major league roster and the amount of service time he has accrued, he cannot be sent down. So then I think the next point is, well, I think we can all agree he's more valuable as a reliever than he is as a starter. That says way more about how valuable he is as a starter, right? Like, we're not comparing Dustin May as a reliever to how bad he is as a starter. The more important question is like, will he actually be good as a reliever? Now, I'm going to share a conversation I had with Blake Williams off the air because I think that he made some good points. I've always been skeptical because he doesn't get swing and miss. And that's the most important thing I want out of my relievers. I've said that a dozen times. Now, Blake's point is that if you go and look at Dustin May's numbers the first time through a lineup, which is all he would be doing as a reliever,
right,
they're actually dramatically better. So I went and looked this up. His batting average the first time through is .222 allowed. That jumps 37 points the second time or third time or fourth time somebody sees him. On base percentage, .298, goes up 60 points afterwards. Slug percentage, .368, goes up 110 points afterwards. So it's a 3.6 FIP. His first time through the order, it's a 5.4 FIP. Second, third, and fourth time through the order. The other point that Blake made that I think is a good one is that if Dustin May goes to the bullpen, one of the pieces that we don't often talk about for a starter, he has to throw more than 2 pitches when he's a starter. He has to keep guys honest, and he has to set them up for future at-bats. Blake's point is, what if he only has 2 good pitches? And if he's a reliever, he can just throw 2-seamer and sweeper all day, every day, or I should say 4-seamer, because I think some people think it's the 4-seamer that's better, but it's like you can ditch all of your bad pitches and just say, hey, none of these guys are going to see you twice. You don't need to set anything up long-term. Just go in there and spam your 2 good pitches. So I think that's the most compelling case I've heard, that even the first time through the order numbers that I just shared would theoretically be better if he was only having to throw his best pitches. All of that said, the numbers suggest he would be a fine relief pitcher, not a great. Like, first time through the order would be like an Anthony Bonda level reliever. We're not talking about a guy who becomes like peak Ben Kasparius or Evan Phillips or something. So that's, I think, the case you have to make with yourself about Dustin May.
And I think I would, like, me personally, I would be totally okay with that. And if I know he's going to give me somewhere between 6 and 8 hitters every time he goes out there, and he can max out that fastball, maybe we see it tick up 2 or 3 miles an hour in that situation, in that role. And then, like you said, just spam the sweeper, because that is a devastating pitch when he's got it going. I would love to see what that experiment looks like. Honestly, I'm super curious about it. Are
you surprised that they haven't tried it earlier? Because it does feel like they might have an answer inside, but we don't know, because now the trade deadline's like 4 days away, and we're, they haven't figured it out. Maybe they haven't had the luxury, I think is the safest way. They haven't had enough pitchers to really try it, but it is an interesting conversation for us to be having today.
I think had he been healthy, through his career, this probably would have been something they've already tried. And 2, I think they probably would have liked to try it this season at some point, but they just did not have the opportunity because of the injuries. I said to Matt last week that when he piggybacked with Ohtani, that I thought it was an audition for how he would do coming out of a bullpen in that role without the normal starter pregame routine and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm pretty curious about how that looks, because I think that I think there's a really high upside there. And like you said, the Anthony Bonda, like, I would be totally fine with that kind of production. But when you give it to me for multiple innings, that's, I think, where you get some real value too.
It's like the Ryan Yarbrough rule from a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And who knows? I mean, maybe he just becomes the mop-up guy, where it's like, oh, hey, we're up by 7 or down by 7, and we need somebody to go eat 4 innings. And hey, Dustin, that's your music.
Yeah, and unlike Yarbrough, because I understand that comparison. I hope that's not his role. Yeah, like it was for Yarbrough, because I think then it means that the experiment has failed and he's just now eating outs.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, okay. So bottom line for you, if I told you Dustin May is a reliever tomorrow, give me a 1 to 10, 10 being the most confident he's going to be awesome, 1 being you have no faith whatsoever. Where would you be on Dustin May, the reliever?
I would sit at a 6.5.
Yeah, I'd probably, I was going to say 6 would probably be my number. I wouldn't feel awesome about it, but I also don't think like there's any world where he's an abject failure as a reliever either. It's not like he's going to be a 9 ERA guy coming out of the bullpen.
Yeah. And I think I was probably like maybe a 5.5, 6 until you disclosed your confidential conversation with Blake Williams, our guy. That makes me happy, you know, knowing that stuff exists but on the back of May's baseball card, because I think that stuff can play in the bullpen. Then, okay, look, you max out. You're never going to see another guy twice. That sweeper is devastating the first time through the order too, and maybe the fastball ticks up.
Yeah. You and I have the highest scores of anybody in the chat. Lots of 3s and 4s and 2s, a couple 5s. So 6.5 for you is the highest. 6 for me is the second highest. So Blake Williams somewhere, I hope he's given us a 7. So 10. There you go.
We got a 10.
Is admin Blake Williams? Hard to say, but they did give him a 10 that he would be an effective reliever. So there you go. Fritz super chat. Will Teo's next series be as productive offensively as it was with Fenway? Thoughts on Kim's injury? Teo had himself a nice little bounce back. We know he's mashed the ball at Fenway Park. Are we ready to believe that Teoscar Hernandez may have found his groove? Or, I mean, today wasn't exactly. He was 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts today. So maybe today was a little bit of come back down to earth.
I'm not totally all back in that he's figured it out. But I will say this, and maybe it's just the fact that he likes hitting there. He had some early success in the series, so it kind of leveled him out. But he looked less jumpy in the box to me.
Yeah.
This series, over the course of this weekend, he looked a little more settled in and comfortable in there. Hopefully that continues, because I think some of what I've noticed about him was that he was just out on that front foot a lot, and a lot of flailing and stuff like that, and almost guessing, like, hopefully the bat finds the ball kind of thing. And I thought this weekend he just looked a lot more comfortable in there.
Yeah, I'm with you. Hyesung Kim seemed to have tweaked his shoulder a couple days ago. They showed a replay on the broadcast. I believe it was the first game of the series where his arm came off the bat and he looked like he was grabbing at it. He was back in there as a defensive / base running guy today. So it doesn't seem like it's an injured list thing, but just something to keep an eye on. I mean, we haven't really heard anything. I will say, as good as he was to start the season, the overall season numbers still look good, but it's been a rough month of July for Hyesung Kim. The good news on Saturday, he did go 2 for 3. That was his first time getting a couple hits in a couple weeks. So that's good to see. But the power has seemingly disappeared from Hyesung Kim's bat even before the shoulder injury. So that would be the concern for me, is it had already started to come back down to earth. And if we're getting a diminished offensive version of Hyesung Kim, that to me, Anthony, is a little concerning.
No, it is. It is. I think that, look, I don't think anyone expected him to be like this offensive force, but I think we just need him to hold his own, because I do like him in the lineup still, because he provides things that this overall roster has lacked. And two things that you would think typically go in a slump, at least for very long: his speed and athleticism, and his defense, because he's been a pretty good second baseman. And so even if he has some offensive struggles, like every other guy does, at least he brings those two traits to the lineup, which is, again, the Dodgers don't really have that, too much. So it is concerning that, he was, before the shoulder, like you said, he was already kind of, becoming a liability in the lineup. But I think as long as he can give competitive at-bats, which they have not been lately, if he can get back to having competitive at-bats, then those other things that he brings to the table really play.
Yeah, in his last 55 plate appearances, this is in the month of July, he has 22 strikeouts and 1 walk, Hyesung Kim does, with 1 extra base hit over that stretch as well. So something to keep an eye on there. And again, that was before the shoulder injury as well. Tim, putting things in perspective, he says the Dodgers were 62 and 44 last year. At this point, 61 and 45 now. So they're game behind the pace of last year. And if I remember correctly, I think things ended up pretty well for the Dodgers.
And look, and they're getting healthier. And I think, talking about like how does how does today's events fit into the 162? Like, I think it's that Dustin May conversation, bringing Sheehan into that conversation. Like, it's that part of it. How does this roster makeup look after the deadline, assuming those guys are still here? And I think we got a little more evidence of what May's role can be and how it can help. And I think looking at what's coming, we expect them to get healthier, knock on wood, where it matters most. And I think if they can do that and they can sustain that and then sustain effectiveness with like Ohtani and Glass now, and then hopefully Snell comes back and he's Snell, this team looks very different like in September than it does currently.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get to some of the trade deadline chatter, because there have been some interesting nuggets that have come out over the last couple of days, specifically around two players, Brendan Donovan and Harrison Bader. I believe it was Katie Wu of The Athletic who reported that the Dodgers had been doing some homework on Brendan Donovan. Today, Bob Nightingale mentioned that Harrison Bader is a name that the Dodgers have discussed in some capacity. These are a pair of interesting names. I want to start with Harrison Bader, to me, Anthony, because when I look at Harrison Bader's profile, I should say both of these guys, what terrifies me about both of these guys is they're having their best season now that they've had in a number of years. When you look at Harrison Bader, he has not been an above average offensive player since 2021. That was the last time he was over 100 weighted runs created plus. He's at 115 this year. Now, Harrison Bader defensively is where he makes his mark. He's one of the best defensive outfielders in Major League Baseball, and that has not changed over the last few years. He's 31 years old. So when you hear Harrison Bader's name as a guy that the Dodgers may go out and target, by the way, shout out to Harrison Bader for not catching Freddie Freeman's line drive the other day. We appreciate you being just bad enough at defense not to catch that. But does Harrison Bader's name get you excited when you think about the Dodgers, the current state of the roster, and him being – because here's one last thing. I think the Dodgers kind of have room for one person. Like, they don't have an abundance of roster spots that they can just throw at a bunch of different guys, knowing that Kike is going to come back at some point, knowing that Rojas has been playing well. Even if they get rid of Conforto, even if they ship Outman and Estuary Ruiz back to AAA, like, I don't think they have room to go get 2 or 3 bats. So if they only have one bullet in that chamber when it comes to adding a bat, is Harrison Bader a name that gets you excited?
It doesn't get me excited. He's also right-handed. I think they would prefer a left-handed hitting outfielder. He's a good defender. Look, if they got him and the cost was low, I'd be fine with it. But for me, he's not a needle mover. He's not an impact kind of guy. I also don't think he's a guy who would play every day, which limits that impact too. So if you tell me this is the only move they're going to make, I'm a no on it. I don't want this to be the only move that they would make, or the one move that they would make.
Yeah.
If he happens to come over, as you know, and they've made some other deals here and there, I'm okay with it. But yeah, it's not the impact move that I think that they need. And again, not that they're going to make a blockbuster, but I think there's better than Bader out there for this.
Yeah,
for
and
this
I
team.
could, when it comes to the right-handed thing, like maybe they're looking for a platoon mate to Conforto, and they just want to put Conforto against righties, and they'll throw this guy in against lefties. Bader hasn't exactly been like that type of player. It's not like he mashes lefties and survives against righties. He's been slightly above average against lefties this year. He was terrible last year. And so I'm with you. Bader does not really move the needle to me. All of the underlying metrics for Harrison Bader offensively are like not great. I mean, 12th percentile in average exit velocity, 8th percentile squared up rate. He's not above 35% in any category except for barrel rate and bat speed. We're talking all the expected numbers: exit velocity, hard hit rate, launch angle, squared up, chase whiff, strikeout rate, all those bottom 35 percentile in Major League Baseball. So again, like, I feel like you're getting James Outman with makeup on when you go get Harrison Bader. And I'm like, that guy's right there. We already got James Outman sitting right there.
Yeah. And then that's kind of what I was saying earlier. Not that I think Outman is going to start hitting or anything like that, but if it's going to cost you something, you already got the guy for free. You know what I mean? And to talk about those behind the scenes numbers, his BABIP this year is 308 right now. That's the highest it's been since that season you talked about in 2021, I think it was. Actually, since 2020, which was only a 50-game sample. So his luck on a lot of that stuff is really helping that profile look better than it probably is.
Well, and here's why I mention all those numbers, because when I see a guy who over the last 2 seasons had a 622 and a 657 OPS, which for context is basically what Michael Conforto is giving you right now. When I see a guy with that type of production and then all of a sudden it jumps up 120 points to 777, I'm skeptical. And then I look under the hood and I'm like, oh yeah, none of this makes any sense. Like this feels like fool's gold. That's what's concerning to me. Now let's go to the other side, to Brendan Donovan, who is basically having the same offensive year he's had for the last couple of years, and yet he's coming off his first All-Star appearance. The good news with him is the OPS he has now, 779, is basically the same thing he's put up the last 2 years for the Cardinals. The home run power looks like it's a little bit more, but you look at his under the hood numbers, Anthony, and there's a lot more to like here. 95th percentile expected batting average, 97th percentile squared up rate, 96th percentile in whiff rate, 90th percentile in strikeout rate. And so to me, this at least feels like a profile that I can get on board with. He has the versatility that they like. Second base, third base, probably his best positions. Could play corner outfield if you want to keep Tommy Edman in the dirt. And so Donovan, to me, at least makes a little bit more sense. Now, he's kind of the opposite. There's not really, other than versatility, the defensive numbers don't jump off at the page where he's like a plus defender in any of those places. But talk to me about Brendan Donovan, a guy who would likely cost more than Harrison Bader. But it is, I think, sky high was the quote on what it would cost to get him. But what are your thoughts on Brendan Donovan?
Things I like about Donovan is it feels like the offensive production is a lot more real and authentic.
Yep.
He has, I want to say, 2 more seasons of control.
Free agent in 2028. Yeah.
Okay. I like that. He's a lefty hitter, which I think the Dodgers are looking for if they put somebody in the outfield. All those things are positives. Because of all those things, the price is probably going to be astronomically higher than it would for a guy like Bader.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know if the Dodgers are willing to swim in those waters. And it's not just the Dodgers and Cardinals who will be negotiating on this guy. If it got to that point, it would be the Dodgers, the Cardinals, and then the Padres and the Yankees. You know what I mean? Like there's going to be 6 teams in on a guy like this.
Yeah. And again, I'm not saying this is a bad profile, but this is not the profile of player that the Dodgers typically have valued. Tommy Edman is kind of the exception. Every other guy they've gone after, you feel like you can at least hope on 25 plus home runs. Like with Brendan Donovan, he has 25 home runs in 2023 and 2024 combined. That was 250 games. He had 25 home runs. And so he's very much, I don't even want to say a Tommy Edman profile because that's not totally accurate. He's a batting average on base percentage guy with a little bit of slug that comes more comes more as doubles than it does as home runs. And so you're kind of paying for versatility and above average bat, but it's not like the power bat. So I don't know, like Anthony, for you, if they do get a bat, does it need to be a guy that's like one swing can change the game type of a guy? Or do you think somebody like Donovan could be, if the price could be worked out, could be a fit for what the Dodgers are going after?
If there's a guy like that ends up hitting the market, I don't know that the Dodgers are swimming in those waters this year.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of what the cost would be. Obviously you would like to have a guy like that. Sure. But does it make sense to chase that at a high cost, or does it make more sense to go chase a leverage kind of arm in the bullpen that maybe for a reliever would cost you, more?
Well, let me ask you that question. Like if the Dodgers came to you and said, hey, we could go get Brendan Donovan, or we could go get Griffin Jax. And let's just say, hypothetically, the trade packages for those 2 guys is fairly similar.
Yeah.
Similar control. I think both those guys are free agents after the 2027 season. Jax is like a back end bullpen guy who's not quite Class A Duran kind of levels. Elite, hasn't fully been a closer yet, but the swing and miss stuff is there. Yeah. Donovan, again, kind of like somebody in the chat pointed out, he's a better hitting, worse fielding version of Tommy Edman. Which of those 2 pieces would you prefer to have?
I would rather have the pitcher.
Okay. The reliever.
For what this window is and what the lineup, I think I have a lot more confidence in the offense turning this thing around than I do the bullpen turning it around at this usage rate.
Yeah.
And so I would like the arm better.
And that's an interesting point, right? Because part of the question that I'm asking there is like, who do you believe in more figuring it out? Do you believe more in the Tommy Edman, Teoscar Hernandez, Michael Conforto, guys at the bottom of the lineup figuring it out and being productive? Or do you believe more in the Kirby Yates, Anthony Bonda, like those guys? You know, that's kind of like, we have enough names in both buckets. The question is, which bucket has more guys that are eventually going to figure it out and solve their own problems on the inside, right?
Yeah, and for me, I think I like the offense's chances to figure it out more, because you don't need everybody. You need like Max to come back. Maybe Freddie figures it out. And maybe Teo is like a little better with more slug.
And those three, like none of those would be a hot take, you know,
No.
like none of those you're like grabbing the rosary beads and praying for a miracle.
Exactly. And I think that's realistic. I didn't mention Mookie. Mookie's not going to be back to MVP Mookie this season. And so I think you need those guys. Ohtani is Ohtani. And you get that offense back on track. I think with the bullpen, I said it last week, I have to be convinced at this point that we're going to see Tanner Scott again in 2025. And so, you know, there's a hole there. And when, why am I blanking on the name of the reliever that is on the cusp?
Trinan?
No, not Trinan. Who was the first guy you said?
Michael Kopech?
Kopech. He's healthier, but like, I still don't know how much I trust the stuff and the command. You know what I mean? And so like, basically I say all that to say, like, I think the bullpen is in more need of help from the outside than the offense is right now.
Well, I have good news for you, Anthony. If you think the bullpen needs help, can I interest you in a little Bobby Miller and a little Joe Kelly to solve all of your problems? Because we got solutions right here, baby. No prospects required. Fabian Ardaya of The Athletic reported yesterday, which, by the way, if you missed the interview that he came on our show, he was fantastic. All sorts of news and notes on the trade deadline. It's right here on our channel. But he reported yesterday that Bobby Miller is going to be shifting into a relief role. Dave Roberts confirmed that plan today. Quote, I think this might be something that unlocks him going hard for a shorter period of time, get some confidence for him, which could help us here. So that's the note on Bobby Miller. On Joe Kelly, Robert Murray is reporting that Joe Kelly is expected to throw for the Dodgers soon. Kelly has announced personally that he will not pitch for anybody other than the Dodgers. So he essentially gets a tryout. Bobby Miller gets a tryout. Let me ask you a dumb question. Which of these two guys is more likely to help the Dodgers in 2025? Bobby Miller, the reliever, or Joe Kelly coming off his couch?
Bobby Miller. Yeah. And that's a low bar. It's a low bar.
Matthew Moreno, if you're listening, I apologize. I know you're Joe Kelly's biggest fan. I just want to apologize before you hear the rest of what Anthony's going to say. Okay.
You and I talked about early this season, like in April, about what if you just make this guy a reliever and see what he's got? Yeah. And, you know, at that time we were talking about the mental makeup and does he have it upstairs enough to be put into those situations? All fair questions. It was all fair questions. But he's been so bad as a starter. I think they just need to try to shake it up and do something different. Even if he doesn't get called up this year, like see if this is a thing that he can succeed in. Because he was at one point a top prospect for this organization. You hate to just waste those guys. You know, and so you try to find every opportunity you can for them to find their niche in your organization. Maybe this is it for Bobby Miller. Maybe they hit a lottery ticket with them and, you know, they're able to say, hey, we're going to give you some run here in September. Let's see what you got. Yeah.
Can I paint you a picture for Bobby Miller? Let me paint you the best case picture of Bobby Miller. Let me tell you a story of a top pitching prospect who flamed out as a starter, never figured it out, and then got converted to a relief pitcher. His name's Michael Kopech, and he throws 103 miles an hour. And I'm not telling you that's what Bobby Miller is going to be, but I'm at least telling you that White Sox fans were probably saying the same things about Michael Kopech that we are currently saying about Bobby Miller. I don't know if he hit the lows that Bobby Miller hit, but like my thing with Bobby Miller is this, and I have no confidence in either of these guys. I want to be clear. I have more confidence in Bobby Miller, but here's why. Like, is there a world where there's just enough of a mental reset for Bobby Miller as a reliever that it almost feels like he's playing an entirely different game with an entirely different assignment? And so instead of comparing to like all the things he used to do as a starter, it's like everything is so new and so foreign to him that it's like his brain just blacks out for a second and he just goes out there and throws baseball really hard. Like, is there a world where that happens? Again, I don't think he's going to be awesome, but it's not all that different from the conversation we're having Dustin May. Again, Bobby Miller, far worse than Dustin May is right now. But you're basically saying, well, what if this guy with, in theory, really good stuff could just harness it for like one time and see what happens? Again, Dustin May, I would have more confidence than both of these guys. But if I had to choose, I would say Bobby Miller would be the guy that maybe something clicks over 37-year-old Joe Kelly, who's been sitting on his couch for the last 6 months. And oh, by the way, in case people want to forget, hasn't really been that good for the last 3 years anyways. His ERA the last 3 years, 6, 4.1, and 4.8 the last 3 years. So at 34, 35, and 36, he wasn't all that good. At 37, having not played, I'm not expecting much.
Yeah. And like, enough said about Joe Kelly. Thank you for all of that context. But the Bobby Miller stuff, like, you know, you take a flyer on this because the other thing is not working. And so before you give up on the guy, you know, and I'm not saying that they're close to that, but before that ever comes to fruition, if it does, you exhaust every avenue possible to make the guy successful. And maybe this is it. Maybe he doesn't have whatever it is, whatever the issue is as a starter, but he has something that in that smaller burst can make him successful and get 3 outs and be a dominant kind of guy, or just a good kind of reliever. Doesn't really matter as long as they can find a way to, you know, to make him a valuable piece of the organization again. So, because right now he's like, his value is 0.
Well, and that's the important thing. I see people in the chat saying, hey, trade him. He's worth nothing on the trade market.
No, why would anybody want him?
Yeah. So your best bet is maybe trying to rehab some of the value by turning him into a reliever and giving people a glimpse of like, well, maybe this guy could do something. So that's what we've got. A couple injury updates, and then we'll get to some questions. Shohei Ohtani, let's start there. Good news, Dodgers fans. The expectation is that Shohei Ohtani will be adding an inning to his workload in the coming starts. Dave Roberts said this: we're not going to have the reins off where we're going to say, hey, go 110 pitches. I don't see that happening for some time, Dave Roberts said. So I think staying at 4 for a bit to build up to 5, and then we'll see where we go from there. So good news on Shohei Ohtani. The next 2 starts, I believe they've said, are expected to be 4 innings apiece, and then hopefully after that 5. That's kind of what we've seen so far, right? It's like two times going 1 inning, 2 times going 2 innings, 2 times going 3 innings. So some good news there. Blake Snell pitched on Saturday in Reno. Walked a bunch of guys, didn't allow any hits. It was the perfect Blake Snell experience. I think he had 7 strikeouts, 4 2/3, threw like 76 pitches, which was the goal. So he hit every benchmark. Again, he walked some guys, but whatever. It's Blake Snell. It's AAA. Snell. Yeah, who cares? So that's the good news. And then Blake Trinan activated today. So again, injury updates, things trending in the right direction, Anthony.
Yeah, up and to the right. It's been a while since you've been here. Up and to the right.
Exactly.
This is all good news. And I'm good with this Ohtani plan with how they're doing, you know, because it seems like that's the pattern here. 2 starts at that level before he adds another inning in. And, you know, by this time, he's a full-fledged starter with very little limitations by the time October rolls around.
Yeah, and the power doesn't seem to be an issue for a guy who's also starting to pitch. There was a note, I believe it was MLB Trade Rumors that pointed this out. Apologies if it's like lots of places. That's just where I saw it first. One cool thing about the Ohtani stretch is these next 2 times that he's going to start, they have a scheduled off day the very next day. So they kind of like how that sets up. He's going to have a day of rest, not have to hit the very next day because the entire team is going to be off. So some good news there for Shohei Ohtani. All right, let's get to some questions, all caps questions. We got about 10, 15 minutes to get to those. Shout out to the 1,800 people in here live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. If you are new, please subscribe. Ring the notification bell right here on our YouTube channel. We are aiming for 90,000 people by the end of the month, and we are getting closer, just a few hundred away, I believe. So please, if you are new, subscribe. We'd greatly appreciate it. Tons of content live every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday, plus interviews. If you missed the last few days, we had an Evan Phillips interview with our guy, Blake Williams. I interviewed Fabian Ardaya. We posted an interview today with Steven Nelson, Dodgers play-by-play guy. That was awesome. Lance Brozdowski, I recorded with him today. That's going to be going up in the next couple of days. And so tons of content here on the Dodger Blue channel. So please subscribe, ring the notification bell. We'd greatly appreciate that. And by the way, if you're a fan of what we do, download our app. DodgerBlue.com now has an app where you can find all of our video content, all of our podcast stuff, as well as all of our written stuff. So go ahead and check that out as well. But if you've got any questions, all caps, throw that in the chat. Sign stealing scandal. For Jeff, Anthony, and chat, how crazy is this take? Wow. This is a crazy take, Anthony. Prepare yourself. Rate this 1 to 10 in craziness, 10 being psychopath, 1 being very tame. World Series Game 7 tomorrow. I would rather have Conforto lead off than Mookie.
Psychopath.
Yeah, it's a 10.
Yeah, psychopath.
Hey, Mookie Betts, 950 OPS in the postseason last year. I know everybody likes to talk about how bad he's been over the last 12 months, but the man turned it on in the postseason, had an RBI single. So, I mean, look, I love Conforto, but I'm going 10 out of 10. Mookie, I still believe in Mookie Betts.
And I believe, like I said earlier, I'm not expecting him at all to become MVP level Mookie Betts for the rest of 2025. But I think in that role, I think he can adjust himself to do well enough to be in that role and not be a complete meltdown. I do trust him to at least be able to do that.
Yeah. Michael wants to know, does Conforto have a member of your family captured in a crazy Saw game? If you haven't seen the Steven Nelson interview yet, I want to make a note that I am now sharing custody of Michael Conforto Island with Steven Nelson. He is also a believer. He talked about how unlucky Michael Conforto has been this season. He goes back to the Oregon State days with Conforto. And so I just want to know, I'm sharing custody. Steven and I were texting today. I said, nice little day for our property values over here on Conforto Island. 3 for 4, 3 extra base hits, the walk in the ninth. I'm just saying. So we got a super chat here from Jedi. Did you check out Ichiro's speech at the Hall of Fame today? I saw clips of it, Anthony. People that were like, wait, this guy's a little spicy. He told the Marlins, thanks for signing me. I'd never heard of you before. He also got pissed at the guy who didn't vote for him. And here's what I would say to that. Screw the guy who didn't vote for him. That guy should lose his vote, or girl, whoever it is that didn't vote for him should lose their vote. Like, it's plain and simple. The idea that Ichiro came over to Major League Baseball as a 27-year-old and then got 3,000 hits is insane.
Yeah.
The Hall of Fame does not recognize just Major League Baseball, by the way. So his contributions to baseball as a whole, the idea that Ichiro, who might be the greatest hitter ever, he might be, wasn't unanimous is stupid. So shout out to Ichiro for calling out the idiots.
Totally agree. Whoever didn't vote for him, shame on you. You know what you were doing. That it wasn't because you didn't think he was a Hall of Famer. So it's that person's vote should be taken away. On Ichiro himself, I've had the lucky, the pleasure to meet him a couple of times and actually have conversations with him. He's super cool. Like, that's a guy you would want to go to the bar and do a couple shots with, because he doesn't just do beers. Like, he'll go at it. He's hilarious. He's funny. No joke I've ever heard from him is clean enough to say here. I mean, he's a cool dude, man. So to see the clips of the speech and some of the stuff he was saying was not surprising at all. And I think to anyone who has been around the guy at all knows, like, that's kind of who he is. He's got a ton of personality.
There you go. Shout out to him. Rod with the super chat. Why doesn't Joe Kelly get more blame for the 2019 playoff loss to Washington? He did give up the game-losing homer. Kershaw gets all of the blame. He had a 23 ERA in the 2019 postseason, for those that were wondering. Joe Kelly proved one thing, Anthony. If you do a pouty face at Carlos Correa, all of the other things you've ever done go away. I mean, like, this guy, like, if we're being honest, his tenure as a Dodger was never really that awesome. Like, 2021, he was very good. Other than that, he was mediocre to bad. Is, I guess, the nicest way to put it. So go Joe Kelly. Good for you. What you did to Carlos Correa, I'm glad you got a mural out of it. But I do think we've maybe whitewashed a little bit how good of a pitcher he actually was.
Between that and Mariachi Joe, like,
exactly.
He's him himself. He's totally rewritten his own Dodgers history.
Yeah. I mean, and look, more power to you, Joe, for what you've been able to. But yeah. Okay. Let's see some more questions here. GI wants to know, how much run do you give Mookie at leadoff before you wave the white flag? If so, basically, how far down the lineup do you move him?
Yeah, I think we may have already gotten the answer hinted at. I think it's until Max comes back.
Okay.
And at least, unless, if he turns it around, then it's probably going to be the rest of the season. If you do move him down, where do you move him to? Maybe fifth is the lowest I would go. Here's the thing with, and somebody mentioned it in the chat earlier.
I mean, let's talk it out because you're saying once Muncy gets back. So that would mean Ohtani first. Let's say Will Smith second, Freddie Freeman third, Max Muncy fourth.
Muncy, Mookie,
Yeah.
Teo.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be okay. I think it just depends at that point what everyone else is doing. If Teo's gotten hot, like it all kind of depends on that stuff. I'm also not opposed to just flip flopping those two guys at the top again.
Yeah. And putting Mookie back second, you're saying?
Putting Mookie back in the second spot, yeah.
Fifth,
I was not agreeable to move to flipping them when it happened anyway. I thought, especially with the way the lineup is struggling, I want Ohtani up as many times as possible.
And I do think, I mean, I'm not opposed to moving Mookie down. I think you can make the case for fifth because Teoscar Hernandez hasn't exactly grabbed anything by the reins. I mean, Pages would probably be the guy that maybe you feel like deserves a little bit better than that. And who knows? Mookie Betts' name value alone probably gives a guy like Pages maybe some protection that he wouldn't have otherwise. And so I think fifth, sixth range is probably about right. But I mean, even that's interesting. Like, is there going to be a world where it's Pages and Teoscar Hernandez who are ahead of Mookie Betts, and now all of a sudden it's like Mookie Betts, Tommy Edman, Michael Conforto swimming around in the 7, 8, 9 range? So I still am a believer that Mookie Betts is going to be a better version. I think we're going to get a version of Mookie Betts that in the 2-hole you don't hate, you can live with. He reaches base. It's more, doubles, more doubles than home runs. Not to say there won't be any home runs, but I still think that Mookie is in there. Maybe I'm wrong.
I'm agreeing with you. I think there's a better version in 2025 still untapped that can come out. Again, not the MVP candidate Mookie Betts that we saw, for the first 2.5 months or whatever it was last season. I think we have to adjust our expectations of what this is, at least for the rest of this season. Going forward, we can have that conversation later. For me, it feels like a lot of him still taking hacks at the ball like he did when he was like 25 to 30 home run power. And I think for at least right now for 2025, that power sapped. And those are turning to just lazy fly balls. And so remaking a swing in the season is not easy. Yeah. And I'm not asking him to do that, but it feels like that's the root of some of these problems. Cause like we're seeing the guy pop up once a night now.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. Obi-Wan with the super chat, just saying thanks, Jeff, Anthony, the whole chat. Always appreciate the baseball therapy. Cheers, everyone. We appreciate you, Obi-Wan. Lori says, honest to goodness, last season at frustrating points, I told myself this team is not going to win the World Series. I'm holding on to that this season because I'm kind of there. That's kind of the point that I feel like I've made a number of times, is that just trying to remind ourselves we felt this way for sure last season at various points. And so
absolutely.
It doesn't mean that it's going to end
the last week of sorry, Jeff, I'm talking over you. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it doesn't mean it's going to end the same way, but nothing that has happened thus far disqualifies them from winning the World Series.
Totally. Absolutely. And we went into the last week of the season last year in September with this kind of feeling. Yeah. Like, I remember me and you I think they had just beaten the Padres and the series was still happening. And we were like, look, this, there's it's still okay. Like, all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, the last week of last season, it was still like the sky was falling. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you. Let's see. A couple more questions here. Wolf Mask wants to know, how come the Dodgers never signed Aroldis Chapman? He's been a 1-year guy. Instead, we signed Kirby Yates. FYI, I am aware of the domestic stuff. I mean, the thing I would say is, as crazy as this sounds, Kirby Yates was better than Aroldis Chapman was last year. Aroldis Chapman was a 1.1 wins above replacement guy. He was a 3.8 ERA guy. Kirby Yates was a 1.8 wins above replacement guy. And so the shortest version would be that Yates was actually better. Yates also happened to come with 0 off the field stuff and a longer track record. Now, undoubtedly, Aroldis Chapman has been better than Kirby Yates so far this season. And so even from a baseball's perspective, if you're just looking at that, however, I think you could easily have justified the decision the Dodgers made coming into the year. Both guys who are old as well. So I think Kirby Yates is 38 years old and Aroldis Chapman's what? Is he the same? 37. So, you're looking at two very similar players from like a profile perspective, and one guy was better than the other, and they signed the guy that was better and is now worse. So check out the Lance Brozdowski interview. I believe it's posting tomorrow. We talked about a bunch of different things, but I asked him specifically what's happened with Tanner Scott and what's happened with Kirby Yates. And I thought his answer was good. I'll tease it by saying one of those guys, he feels confident will figure it out. And the other guy, he's a little bit skeptical.
Oh, so I hope the guy that he's optimistic about is still actually pitching for the Dodgers right now.
There you go. I will say no more. BL Boyd, why can't this team ever move runners around via bunt and shortening up swings? It's costing us game after game. It's why we sucked in extra innings since the ghost runner. Do you think this is a problem, Anthony? Their inability to do kind of the quote unquote little things?
Yes, but for me, little things doesn't necessarily constitute sacrifice bunts. It constitutes sometimes getting the guy over. Like, how many times this season have they had a leadoff double or the first two guys reach and those guys stay where they're at for the rest of the inning?
It happened twice. It happened twice tonight.
It happened twice today, and it's so frustrating. With that said, it's been about a week now of watching games, and I keep thinking with Kim, I just try.
Yeah,
you're left-handed. Just try to drop one down, a drag bunt, like some,
they played him. I think it was yesterday. The third baseman was standing on the grass when he was up at the plate. And that was when he hooked a double down the right field line.
Right. And like, look, I'm not even saying you got to do it all the time, but every once in a while, show it.
Yeah.
Show that it might be there. Show that it's maybe a possibility. Because with his speed, an average kind of bunt down the third base side, he can beat out. Like when you're struggling, and I'm not saying he's got to do it all the time. Again, like I said, I'm not one for like just giving away outs, but I think that would not be trying to give away the out. I think with his tools, for him, that should be a weapon in his arsenal. And right now it's just not.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. All right, let's get to a couple food questions to close things out here. David wants to know, Jeff, when's your next vacation? Can we please get more food pictures like the hot dog picture you posted last time? So good news and bad news. I do have one more trip starting tomorrow. So I'll be gone Monday through Friday. I might be able to pop back in to some Wi-Fi for the trade deadline. I've shared this briefly. It's not about me, but my main job is I work with middle school and high school students. So the month of July is like camp season for me. And so the bad news, David, is the hot dog picture was the one time to civilization. Unless you want pictures of some camp scrambled eggs or something like that, I think you're going to be heavily disappointed by my food pictures where I'm headed. So I will be gone Monday through Friday, but after that, I'm like 95% here for the rest of the season. Hawaiian Kira had this question. She's back from vacation. Where in the world is number one on your travel bucket list, Anthony?
Man,
I want to go to England. I've never been to London. I'm a big Premier League soccer guy. And maybe it's just the romanticized version of London. I know some people don't love it, but I've never been there. I've been to a number of places in Europe. So for whatever reason, London would be my number one spot if I could travel somewhere.
That's cool. Yeah. I was in London. I covered the London Olympics. That was a pretty cool experience. I think for me, I would want to take enough time to go up and down Japan. And
I've heard Japan's amazing
with people who know it, whether they're locals or whatever, but people who can show us around. And I want to see all the history. Like that's always been a really interesting country for me. And I think it's got a really cool mix of like big city style type of stuff, and then like countryside and mountain and sea, like all that. Like I think for me it would be Japan, and not just one city. Like I want to see all of it.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, last question. Have we done the Gatorade conversation, me and you?
No, I saw your spicy takes on it, but we have not had it.
So I'll preface this. If anybody has seen the Steven Nelson interview, which again, if you haven't, it posted today, you should go watch it after this or watch it tomorrow. He's the best. He's on vacation and he's like, yeah, I'll hop on your show. No problem. So like his Wi-Fi cut out and I was like, don't worry about it. He's like, I'm coming back on, forget it. We're going to finish this interview. So then literally we get to the end. He's like, dude, you got to ask me a food question. I'm like, all right, well, here's the Gatorade question we've been kicking around. And literally as he's about to answer the question, his Wi-Fi cuts out for a second time. So I was like, table it. Next time you can come back on, you can do Gatorade. But the question was basically, they were ranking the top like 8 Gatorade flavors. Lemon lime was ranked number 2, which I thought was insane because I think I joked lemon lime is like the 100 weighted runs created plus version of Gatorade. It is the definition of league average. Daniel and Blake both put it number 1 overall. So I guess just give me whatever version of a Gatorade take you want to throw out there here.
Yeah, you're not going to like this. I like lemon lime.
Like number one?
It's probably a top 2 for me.
Wow.
It's really good when you have a hangover.
What else? I mean, so top 2 with what else?
I have not seen it in a while, so I actually don't know if they still do it. But it was I go by colors with Gatorade because I never know what the flavor.
I'm with you.
It was a purple of the Frost edition.
The Frost or the Freeze or whatever they call it.
Whatever that is. Yeah. I saw that I think you had Fruit Punch as your number
one. Fruit Punch is one, and then every version of Frost or Freeze, whatever they call it, the dark blue, the light blue, the purple, white. I was in on all of the versions of that. That probably fills out my top 5.
Michael Negretti, I see you in the comments. That's funny.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge Gatorade Fruit Punch guy. It's look, I'll drink all Gatorades. They're all fine. They're all Gatorade. But for me, Fruit Punch is probably like 4 or 5.
Okay, so he says Glacial Jedi Engineer with the super chat, Lemon Lime or Glacial Freeze. Glacial Freeze is the light blue version of the Frost series. This is why I keep calling it Freeze, because one of them is called Freeze. So it's the Frost series. Glacial Freeze is the light blue. So there you go. Now, so here is the other question I asked Bruce. Vitamin Water, Propel, Gatorade, Powerade. Give me your ranking of those 4 beverages.
Okay. Propel.
Number 1?
Yeah.
Gosh, that's what Bruce said too. I think that stuff's disgusting.
The theme here is your Gatorade takes or your sports drink takes are tanking.
No, I'm way out on Propel, but go ahead.
Propel,
you have number 1.
Because it's not like the just dump sugar into my bottle.
I'm with you. We agree there.
Propel. You said Vitamin Water, Propel, Gatorade, and what was the 4th?
Powerade.
I would say Gatorade second.
Okay.
Powerade, and then Vitamin Water. I'm not a huge fan of Vitamin Water. Like the taste doesn't hit all the time.
I think Bruce had the exact same rankings. Mine are almost the opposite. I have Vitamin Water is my favorite, essentially because to me it tastes like watered down Gatorade, which is what I need. I'm like the old man that like I drink like the first quarter of my Gatorade and then I dump water in it because I'm like, there's just too much sugar.
Propel? Isn't that what Propel is too?
Yeah, it tastes bad. Like it's in theory, it's the right thing. Vitamin Water is like to me is literally just watered down. Propel was trying to do a different thing, and maybe they have better flavors now.
That's fair. I agree with you.
And look, I would drink all of these, so for what it's worth. But yeah, Vitamin Water number 1. Have you ever had Pocari Sweat? It's an Asian drink.
No.
Okay. I've had it when I was in Singapore. It's like their electrolyte drink there. Not my favorite. People in Southeast Asia love it. It tastes like it's good for you. It's not quite like Pedialyte version. Oh, that was my other hot take. Have you ever tried any of the Gator Light, the Gatorade electrolyte version?
I have. They're not very good.
Yeah, they're awful.
I'm in on almost all Gatorades. That was not very good. The Pedialyte, like adult electrolyte drink, is pretty good.
Okay, like Pedialyte. I don't even know what they have.
Yeah,
but it's like not just standard Pedialyte. It's something else.
Yeah. It's not like the kids version. It's like a sports drink type of version of it.
Okay. There was stuff my mom got me for a while called Recharge when I was growing up, which was, I think, some like organic low sugar version of it. And I could pound the orange version of that. But I'm pretty sure it was like $5 a bottle. So not good. I think I was drinking it a lot faster than my mom was hoping for. Like, you're not supposed to drink. It's like a bottle, it's like, you're not supposed to drink that all at once. Like, yeah, it tastes good. So anyways. All right, folks. That'll do it for us. Again, if you are new, please subscribe, ring the notification bell, hit the like button. We'd greatly appreciate that. When you are done here, if you have time, it's only 7:50. Go check out the Steven Nelson interview. Go check out the Fabian Ardaya interview and save the date because tomorrow, Lance Brozdowski, we're going to start posting parts of that interview as well. One other piece of good news, by the way, Dodgers fans, you may have missed this. Sam Horn, who was one of the Dodgers' late round draft picks, a guy that they were not expected to sign necessarily because he's expected to play football at Missouri. He was a 17th rounder. The Dodgers lost out on their 6th rounder, Mason Legenza. They actually signed Horn, their 17th rounder. So he is going to go back to school. He's going to play quarterback for Missouri. Expectation is he's going to be the backup. And then, in theory, will come and play baseball with the Dodgers. Jim Callis said this: first round stuff, a fastball that touches 98 and a mid-80s sweeper, but just 15 innings pitched in 3 college seasons because of injury. So there you go. Dodgers, it's a big signing. A guy that a lot of people didn't think was signable. So kudos to the Dodgers for getting him. You can catch that information and more, all the latest news, trade rumors, all that on DodgerBlue.com, DodgerBlue1958 on social media. And again, go ahead and check out the Dodger Blue app. That is where you can find all sorts of stuff. That is Anthony. I am Jeff. Enjoy the rest of your night, everyone. As always, go Dodgers. And yes, still champs.